Woken by the doorbell in the middle of the night, feverish, I mistakenly thought my wife thoughtfully ordered food delivery. But it was actually a delivery for the male neighbor downstairs, his number ending in the exact same digits as hers. She stammered out an explanation, claiming she had to work overtime, but her phone was unreachable at 2 in the morning, and her friend said she dropped her off hours ago. If that's the case, where was she? Grace was already back. But she went upstairs and didn't come home, so where did she go? A bad premonition welled up from deep within my heart. My mind replayed the food delivery that was delivered to the wrong address today, the coincidental phone number, and Grace's stammering explanation. Perhaps this wasn't a coincidence after all. Chloe sensed something was wrong, and sent another message. Ethan, don't worry, everyone knows you two are the most loving couple. Grace always leaves our get-togethers before midnight just to get back and be with you. Maybe something urgent came up, and she had to go back to the office to handle it. Don't overthink it. This was meant as a compliment, but it felt like a bucket of cold water dumped on me, further solidifying my suspicions. Okay, I understand. I won't bother you then. Get some rest. Hanging up the phone, I reflected on Chloe's words. She said Grace always rushed back before midnight. But for the past 6 months, Grace had been coming home at 1 or 2 in the morning. The more I thought about it, the more unsettling it became. I called Grace repeatedly, and finally, it connected. She sounded off, her tone a bit impatient. Hello, Ethan, didn't I tell you to go to bed? Why are you still making a fuss? Feigning composure, I said, Grace, it's late and I'm worried about you. Where are you? The rustle of fabric came through, a sound I knew all too well. Grace's voice turned cold. Didn't I say I still had a business engagement? What if I annoy a client by calling you constantly to report? I swallowed the bitterness in my heart, but still didn't expose her lie. All right then, hurry home after your engagement. 10 minutes later, Grace rushed back. She shook off the snow from her clothes, unable to resist scolding me. It's freezing. I rushed back this fast just for you. What didn't know was that as she shook off the snow, she also dispersed the scent of her perfume. It was Chanel's classic perfume, called Chance Tundra. I had specifically picked this bottle out for her at the counter as a gift, but she said she didn't like it, and had never used it. Yet, she had used it precisely for these recent client meetings. I ignored her, and walked straight into the bedroom. It wasn't tea until Grace lay down beside me, and turned off the light that the lights in Unit 4701 downstairs also extinguished. I finally confirmed that the one having a Chance Tundra encounter with Grace was none other than Marcus downstairs. Once was fast asleep. I took her phone and unlocked it. Grace and I had been married for years, and I had never suspected her. So, she had confidently let me know all her passwords. So confident, in fact, that she brought her lover into the same residential complex, having an affair right under my nose for half a year. I tapped into her WhatsApp chat with Marcus. Tonight's messages stopped at Grace's last text. New lingerie arrived. This one's easier to tear. You can be gentler. My hands trembling, I scrolled up through their conversation. White stockings or black stockings, which one do you prefer? You pick. How about one leg white, one leg black? Anyway, they are all mine. Don't let your husband get a cheap look. Don't even mention him. He's not worthy. All right, I won't mention him. Tonight, I'll show you what I'm made of. The intimate, explicit messages reeked of a passionate affair. Suppressing my fury, I walked to the bathroom and lit a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, my reflection in the mirror looked like a clown. Thinking of every night I waited for Grace to come home while she was having intimate moments with Marcus downstairs. I felt nauseous and gagged over the sink. Perhaps the sound was too loud, waking Grace. She ran over barefoot, patting my back. Honey, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Are you still feverish? She placed her hand on my forehead, checking my temperature. I looked at Grace. She was a convincing actress, her eyes filled with anxiety and concern, presenting herself as virtuous and proper on the surface, while secretly getting involved with other men. If not for the food delivery mix-up she ordered for Marcus today, I probably still wouldn't have discovered their affair. She might not mind the filth, but I did. I'm fine. I swatted away Grace's hand and hurriedly splashed cold water on my face. After calming down, it was time to think about divorce. Divorce wouldn't happen overnight, and I couldn't tip my hand yet. I had to strike decisively. No matter how heartbroken I felt inside, on the surface, I had to act as if nothing had happened. The next day, after Grace went to work, I knocked on Marcus' door. As the door opened, a strong scent of perfume wafted out, the exact same scent Grace had on last night. When saw me at the door, there was a flicker of guilt and surprise in his eyes. He was bare-chested, his neck covered in a scattering of hickeys, Grace's proud handiwork. My gaze shifted to his face. Upon closer inspection, his eyes and eyebrows eerily resembled mine at 18. No wonder Grace liked him. Marcus frowned, asking me cautiously, "Is there something I can help you with?" I knew what he was worried about. "Don't worry, it's not time for a confrontation yet." I curved a smile. "Excuse me, I think the clothes I hung out last night fell onto your balcony. Can I come in and check?" Marcus clearly relaxed, his expression becoming nonchalant. He looked me up and down, a hint of mockery appearing on his face. "Come in." Suddenly, my gaze fell upon the wall covered in luxury sneakers. There was also a pile of expensive clothes and watches nearby. Marcus clearly noticed my gaze, and couldn't resist studying my expression as he smugly said, "Jealous, aren't you? Don't touch them. These are all the spoils of my hard work." Spoils of his hard work. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Spoils of his body, perhaps. A kept man, getting all this by being a kept man, and he actually thought it was something to boast about. Every penny Grace spent on him was my property. I'd like to see if he'll have the ability to hold on to these spoils then. I quickly found my clothes on the balcony, then, while Marcus was turned away, I secretly placed something in the corner of the wall. As I was leaving, I smiled at him. "Thanks, brother. We really have a connection. Not only do we look alike, but we also have similar taste. You just moved in a few months ago, and yet your decor is identical to how my place was decorated a few years back." I glanced around, then looked at him again, my smile subtle. Marcus' smug smile froze on his face. He was just a university student. This apartment was naturally furnished by Grace for him. Yet she had it decorated just like our home, and he happened to resemble me greatly. Being a kept man was one thing, but being a stand-in as well. Just thinking about it made me feel humiliated for him. That night, Grace returned home again at 2 in the morning. I was sitting in the living room, watching the news without the lights on, which startled her. Grace frowned. "Ethan, it's late, why aren't you asleep yet?" I couldn't sleep, so I got up and scrolled through some videos. I held up the tablet and showed it to her. "Have you seen the news? There was a murder case in the neighboring city. A woman cheated on her husband, and he chopped her up and froze her in the fridge. They just found her now." Grace's face instantly fell, her eyes darting nervously. I deliberately asked, "What's wrong?" Grace slapped the tablet out of my hand in fear. "Why are you watching murder cases in the middle of the night? You are scaring me to death. I'm tired, I'm going to bed." Watching flee as if running for her life, my gaze suddenly turned cold. My trembling fingers switched the tablet to another screen. Unseemly images filled the view. It was what my hidden cameras, placed in Marcus' apartment earlier that day, had recorded. Tired. Just moments ago, she was sweating it out with Marcus downstairs. "Grace, you owe me, and I'll make you pay slowly." The next day, when I went to work, Grace had, for some reason, prepared breakfast for me. She thoughtfully tied my tie, a smile blooming on her face. "Ethan, today is our anniversary. When you get home from work, I have a surprise for you." I wondered if my mention of that news last night had aroused her suspicion. She kept discreetly studying my expression, trying to see if I was acting unusual. Anniversary. What a perfect day. I calmly adjusted my clothes, smiling faintly. "Good. I have a gift for you too." "Really? Thank you, honey Tilda." Grace's eyes sparkled, and she sweetly kissed my cheek, seemingly anticipating a wonderful evening. After all, in previous years, the gifts I gave her for our anniversary cost tens of thousands of dollars. This year would be different. Anyway, I had all the evidence I needed, so I'd give her a divorce agreement. When I left work that evening, Luna, the new intern, had a flat tire. Since she was going my way, I gave her a ride. As I dropped her off at the residential complex entrance, Grace appeared out of nowhere. Her voice was sweet and sugary as she hooked her arm through mine, but her eyes were fixed on Luna, glaring. As if staking her claim, she said, "Honey Tilda, why are you home so late?" I lowered my gaze, taking in Grace's every move. Grace used to be very possessive, never letting any woman from the company get close to me. I just thought she cared about me deeply. Now that I think about it, where was the love? She was cheating on me herself. This was nothing but a perverse possessiveness. Luna, sitting in the passenger seat, looked a bit embarrassed. She seemed flustered. "Mrs. Vance, please don't misunderstand. My tire went flat today, so I troubled Mr. Vance for a ride since he was going my way." Grace glanced at her, with unconcealed mockery and sarcasm. "In this day and age, there's nowhere you can't get a ride. I'd advise some people to give up the idea of trying to marry into wealth." Grace was always so spiteful and harsh. In the past, I would let her rant. Whether was trying to marry into wealth or not, I didn't know. I only knew that Grace was about to fall from her perch. She kept incessantly ridiculing Luna. I frowned, raising my voice to snap, "Shut up." Then I pulled my hand out of Grace's arm, and walked to the other side of the car. I personally opened the car door for Luna. "I apologize, she's always like this. Please don't take it to heart. Until your car is fixed, you can always take my car. It's no trouble at all." Luna stepped out of the car, looking apologetic. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. Well, I'll get going then. I won't disturb you and your wife." Luna hadn't walked more than a few steps before Grace's shrill voice erupted. She started to confront me. "Ethan, what kind of attitude is that? Why are you defending that intern and scolding me instead? Are you having an affair with her?" Seeing self-righteous expression, I gradually lost my patience. "Enough. Why are you so spiteful and harsh? She's just an intern. Did you see me do anything inappropriate with her?" Grace was taken aback by my retort. She sensed a drastic change in my attitude towards her. Then, her eyes shimmered with tears. Putting on a pitiable act, she said, "Ethan, isn't it because I care about you too much? I made dinner for you at home, and then I come out and see you driving with another woman, and you are calling me spiteful and harsh." Grace's acting skills were truly wasted on her not being an actress. If she wanted to cry, she could cry. I immediately left her there and walked back home. When the front door opened, the table was laden with food. Grace had indeed prepared dinner and was waiting for me. Grace wiped away her tears and followed me inside. "I spent all day preparing for you, and this is how you treat me." I stood there, frozen, looking at the seemingly cozy scene at home, when in reality, it was rotten to the core. A wave of pain washed over me. I almost lost my footing, leaning on the table to steady myself. I didn't say anything to Grace the entire time, so she found an excuse to back down herself. She started to pretend to be magnanimous. "Ethan, is something bothering you at work? But you shouldn't bring those emotions home. Forget it, forget it. I'll forgive you this time." Grace composed herself, her eyes red, and pushed an exquisite box towards me, gesturing for me to open it. Her eyes were pitiful and expectant. "Ethan, quick, look at the gift I prepared for you. You'll be so happy." Watching her feigned concern, I thought she must be tired of playing this role. I scoffed, pulled a divorce agreement from my folder, and flung it onto the table in front of her. "No need, let's look at my gift for you first." Grace's smile froze when she saw the word divorce on the agreement. Her eyebrows flickered, and she suddenly became uneasy. Suppressing her anger, she demanded, "Ethan, what do you mean by this?" I shrugged, a calm smile on my face. "Can't you tell? I want a divorce." "Oh, no, I want you to leave with nothing." Grace was currently successful in her career and had a perfect family, but all of this was due to the connections I had provided her. Divorce would undoubtedly be a thunderbolt out of the blue for her. Grace's hands trembled as she tore the divorce agreement to shreds. With red-rimmed eyes, she turned around and falsely accused me. Ethan, why are you bringing up divorce out of nowhere? Are you seeing a homewrecker outside? Is it that Luna from earlier? Haven't you been getting close to her recently? Have you done something to betray me with her? Grace swept all the food off the table. When I married you, you personally promised me you'd never abandon me. If you dare to divorce me for some homewrecker outside, I'll die right here in front of you. I sighed, looking at the scattered pieces on the floor. This home was truly too dirty. Ethan, are you feeling guilty? Say something. Seeing my silence, Grace escalated her antics, ranting at me. I couldn't tolerate it any longer. I raised my hand and slapped her, sending her to the floor. Ah, Ethan, you dared to hit me. I pointed directly at her. Yes, I hit you, you shameless manipulative woman. Grace was incredulous, covering her face, unable to stop tears from falling. Suddenly, the living room door burst open. Grace. Standing in the doorway was Marcus. I curved a smile. This deceitful couple was finally complete. The moment Marcus appeared in the doorway, Grace trembled, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. I caught her expression and smiled. I deliberately asked, "Who is he, Grace?" Grace shook her head, not even daring to meet my gaze. When we got married, I did promise you I'd never abandon you, but Grace, ask yourself if you deserve it. I leaned down and pinched her chin, saying with disgust, "The filthy deeds you've done, I can barely bear to even look at you." Grace shook her head, nervously pulling at my sleeve. "No, it's not like that, Ethan. Listen to me explain." Marcus rushed forward, swatted away my hand gripping her chin, and quickly shielded her behind him. His eyes filled with hostility. He warned me, "Ethan, so what if you found out? Grace is my woman. A loser like you doesn't deserve her." I had looked into Marcus. I heard he met Grace at the gym a year ago, and then they slowly started their affair downstairs in my residential complex. Marcus, by selling explicit content online, and constantly showing off luxury goods, pretended to be a trust fund baby. Gradually, he gained millions of followers, so he was arrogant and haughty. I hadn't even given him a second glance all this time. I scoffed. Worthless. You are a kept man yourself, what are you trying to prove? A kept man, who could be more worthless than you? One casual remark triggered a fierce reaction from Marcus. Marcus was enraged. What did you say? I suddenly saw my chance, and violently punched Marcus in the face. Then I quickly grabbed his arm, tightened my grip, and my knee shot up into his abdomen. Marcus was caught off guard, stumbled into the corner of the table. Grace frantically threw herself over him to shield him. Stop it, stop it. Instinctive actions don't lie. Once disappointment reached a certain point, there was no more heartache, just numbness. I stopped, sneering. Grace, get out with your lover. Tomorrow, I'll have my lawyer draft a new divorce agreement. Grace cried, shaking her head, quickly leaving Marcus and clinging to me. Ethan, it's not like that. Didn't you used to love me the most? I won't divorce. I don't agree. I calmly listened to her insincere apologies, and with disgust, peeled her off me. Then I called security to have them escort these two out of the building. That night, the rain poured down, and Grace stood in the rain, trying to make me soften. Ethan, it's raining too hard outside, please let me in. She also sent me countless messages, either apologizing, or making promises, even trying to guilt trip me. Before, she treated my messages as if they were nothing. This time, it was finally my turn. I thought that by exposing their affair, I could get a smooth divorce. But the next morning, my assistant called me. This is bad, Mr. Vance. Your wife came to the company causing a scene early this morning, and she's already driven away several clients. Most importantly, she hit the new intern, Luna, saying Luna was a mistress who tried to seduce you. By the time I rushed there, A large crowd had gathered in front of the office. I pushed through the crowd. Luna was on her knees, crying, covering her face, and sat imperiously at my desk, legs crossed. Seeing this scene, I was furious. How dare she still come to my company and cause a scene? Grace, what are you putting on airs for? Do you still think you are my wife? Security, get her out of here. The employees, unaware of what had happened between Grace and me, stood by, at a loss. I turned and helped Luna up, gently taking her hand away to check the injury on her face. I instructed my assistant, get some ice packs. Then I apologized solemnly to Luna. I'm sorry, you got caught up in this. Please put ice on your face for now. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup later. It was only then that Luna's tears streamed down her face. She spoke weakly. I really didn't try to seduce Mr. Vance. I only spoke to him a few times for work. Grace watched my cautious treatment of Luna, her teeth grinding with jealousy. She pointed at Luna and cursed, "You manipulative woman. You still say you didn't. If it weren't for your provocation, Ethan wouldn't have." Grace looked at the dense crowd, and the word divorce was quickly stopped. I quickly walked up and pulled Grace off the chair. Grace, you should know why I want to divorce you. Apologize to Luna. Grace bit her lip stubbornly, refusing to relent. With red eyes, she stared at me directly. Ethan, we've been married for so many years. How could you be so heartless? She took advantage of my inattention and tried to hit Luna again. I put my arm around Luna's shoulder and forcefully pushed Grace away. You lunatic. Just then, security arrived. They grabbed Grace and started to lead her out. Don't touch me. Get lost. Grace shook off the security guard's restraint and quickly walked up to me in her heels. She looked at me, smiling eerily. Ethan, go ahead and hit me. If you have the guts, kill me, and kill the baby in my belly too. She was pregnant. I was somewhat surprised. At these words, the crowd stirred. My assistant leaned in beside me. Mr. Vance, should I clear out the people outside? I knew the power of public opinion too well. I shook my head. No, let them stay. Grace's reason for making such a scene at my company today was to stir up everyone's emotions and guilt trip me. Plus, her acting was really good. Outsiders who didn't know the truth would, upon hearing and seeing, believe that I really cheated on Luna, and that she was the victim. She had calculated everything ruthlessly. This way, to silence public opinion, I would have no choice but to agree to her terms. Unfortunately, Grace had overlooked one crucial detail in all her calculations. I smiled, a hint of a sneer, walked to the computer, and turned on the projector. Grace, is the child in your belly really mine? Grace frowned at my actions, still being defiant. A look of triumph was on her face, as if she was sure she could trap me with the child. What? Is Vance too cowardly to even admit to a child? Then she started playing the victim again. Ethan, I can overlook your affair with Luna, but you can deny the child in my belly. Grace's act was only halfway through when the projector in the office suddenly flickered. The sight of her and Marcus sweating it out in the living room immediately appeared before everyone. Grace slowly looked up after seeing the projector's content. Her face turned ashen, and she instinctively took 2 steps back. No. How do you have this? Grace cared about her reputation. I hadn't wanted to make things too ugly. Making her leave with nothing was already the best punishment. Since she refused, something worse was waiting for her. The images on the projector were still shaking, accompanied by embarrassing sounds. I scoffed. Grace, do you have anything else to say? Grace stared at me blankly. After a long moment, she wildly grabbed a cup from the desk and threw it at the projector. She also tried to disperse the people around her. What are you looking at? All of you, get out. Ethan, I'm your wife. How shameless are you to broadcast this? I raised an eyebrow. Well, I'm not the one writhing in the video. The projector flickered for 2 seconds after Grace hit it, then went dark. I had achieved the effect I wanted. As expected, the news media would be full of this by the afternoon. Grace and I were originally a power couple in the business world, so how could they pass up such big news? The bigger the scandal, the better. That way, no matter how much Grace tried to cause trouble with her illegitimate child later, it would have nothing to do with me. I didn't want to argue with Grace anymore. I stood up and pulled Luna. "Let's go, I'll take you to the hospital." These words immediately provoked Grace. Her eyes reddened, and she blocked me, pleading, "Ethan, what's so great about this manipulative woman? She's just after your money. How could she compare to me? Marcus and I were just foolish for a moment, and it's already over. But I never thought of divorcing you. But the child in my belly is really yours. The gift I prepared for you last night was pregnancy test results, but you didn't even look at them. Do you know how sad I was? Ethan, can't you just give me one more chance?" Cheating for half a year, yet never thinking of divorcing me, she truly thought of me as a sucker. I shook Grace off and left with Luna. But as soon as I got downstairs from the company, my assistant sent me a message. "Mr. Vance, Grace had a miscarriage. We tried to take her to the hospital, but she refused, saying she'd only go if she saw you." I looked at the message on my phone for a moment, silent. Grace was even using a deceptive ploy now. Why was this divorce so difficult? I forwarded Marcus' number to my assistant. "Contact this person and tell him to come over. If he doesn't, then don't worry about whether Grace lives or dies." Having go to the company to save Grace would further confirm their illicit relationship. After settling Luna, I went to the hospital lobby to pay for her treatment. A figure flashed by in the line, and I immediately recognized Marcus. I watched Marcus pay and enter a room. Just as I followed him to the door, I heard the sound of things being thrown inside. Grace's shrill voice rang out, "Don't you understand human language? I want a VIP room." Marcus gently tried to soothe her. "Grace, don't be angry, the doctor said you shouldn't get emotional. In a couple of days, once I'm financially better off, I'll definitely upgrade you to a VIP room." I listened from the doorway, wanting to laugh. Grace's job had been ruined by me, and the cards I gave her were frozen. In just 2 days, the 2 people I had been supporting couldn't even manage to live. Suddenly, Grace turned her head, and saw me standing at the door. Unconcealed joy showed in her eyes. "Ethan, you are here. Are you here to see me?" I laughed, unrestrained and defiant. "Yes. I'm here to laugh at you." Grace immediately lost her sparkle, replaced only by endless disappointment. Marcus, seeing it was me, reached out and grabbed my collar. "Ethan, I haven't even come to settle accounts with you yet, and you are already here. Stop playing hard to get and pestering Grace relentlessly. Haven't you caused her enough misery?" I gripped his other raised fist. With a mocking expression, I said, "Your cut on your lip hasn't healed, and you want another round." I glanced at Grace on the hospital bed. "I think you've got it wrong. The one who brought her to this state, the one who caused her so much misery, is you. If you, too, hadn't had an affair, Grace might still be a wealthy madam, owning millions in assets. Following you, she can't even afford a decent VIP room, you worthless man." Grace's shoulders slumped at my words. Marcus' face blushed furiously at what I said. He pointed at me and cursed, "Who are you looking down on, Marcus? I'm telling you, you've just been in the workforce a few years longer than me. What are you so proud of? I'm younger than you, I have millions of followers, and I can easily make a good living just by taking on ads. Who wants your dirty money?" His curses had no effect on me. Compared to me, he only had his youth. Marcus shoved me away, and walked to Grace's side, taking her hand to comfort her in front of me. "Grace, right now. We'll upgrade to a VIP room right now. Eat the highest grade nutritious meals, and when you are well, I'll take you traveling around the world, wherever you want to go." Marcus was still young after all. One provocation was all it took for him to reveal his savings. But had been pampered so much by me before, how long could his small savings last? Suddenly, a nurse knocked on the door. "Grace's family, please come out." After went out, only Grace, and I remained in the room. I scoffed. "Grace, the lover you found is so pathetic he couldn't even provoke a shred of anger in me." Grace's gaze met mine. Her throat worked a few times, and she said in a hoarse voice, "Ethan, As long as you let me come back to you, I can cut ties with him immediately. She looked at me, her eyes sincere. I know you are in a fit of anger, but people make mistakes, right? Ethan, I can give you time to process it. Anyway, I will absolutely not divorce you. I closed my eyes. I knew Grace was difficult to deal with, but I didn't expect her to be this difficult. I asked, what about Marcus? Grace lowered her head. He was just for my distraction, insignificant. Ethan, you're always so busy with work, I just wanted to find someone like you. The more I listened, the more sickened I became. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her with just one sentence. Forget it, Grace. I don't pick up just any trash. I'm giving you 2 days to sign the divorce agreement. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to make you comply. Before leaving the hospital, I saw Marcus indeed upgrading Grace's room in the lobby. I wondered what his reaction would be if he had heard our conversation just now. Interesting. Marcus had actually enlightened me. He had millions of followers. It would be perfect to put them to good use. 2 days later, Grace sent me a message. Ethan, I can agree to sign, but can you please have one last meal with me? She finally relented. Upon seeing this message, I quickly arrived at the hotel where Grace was. But as soon as I entered the private room, I saw Grace and her parents sitting at the table. My eyebrow arched. I had thought it was a farewell meal. It turned out to be an ambush. My smile vanished the moment I saw Grace's entire family. Mrs. Howard saw me standing there and, like an elder, immediately took my hand and led me to a seat. She asked solicitously about my well-being. Ethan, have you been too busy with work lately? You've lost weight. I remained silent, thinking to myself that it was your daughter who made me thin. We didn't mean to disturb you two, we just thought it had been a while since we all had a meal together. Watching them pretend to be completely oblivious, I smiled faintly. I slowly turned my head, and deliberately asked, still calling us husband and wife. What? Grace didn't go home and tell you about the scandalous things she did? Looking at Grace sitting across from me, I raised my voice 2 decibels. Because she's probably too embarrassed to admit it. Grace bit her lip, looking at me but couldn't utter a word in rebuttal. Her mother's smile froze instantly, and she explained awkwardly, Ethan, everyone makes mistakes, and every couple argues. Why can't you just turn a blind eye? What's more, our Grace has such good qualifications. When you two got married, Mr. Howard and I thought you were a good match. Now it's only been 3 years. I took a sip of wine. I haven't forgotten how you two elders looked at me back then. What are you pretending to be now? 3 years ago, my company was just starting, and my assets weren't as substantial as they are now. Because of this, Grace's parents always looked down on me. They even demanded a large pre-nuptial demand of $1 million, which I quickly agreed to in order to marry Grace. Even then, they didn't attend the wedding, humiliating me publicly. Now they were pure disgusting, pretending to be elders. A good match? I wouldn't dare. Who wants to be a good match for trash? I raised my glass to her, smiling faintly. Mrs. Howard, if Mr. Howard ever cheated, I hope you can be as magnanimous and turn a blind eye. Mrs. Howard stood frozen, her fingertips digging deep into her palm. She said, enraged, You! What nonsense are you talking? Mr. Howard finally couldn't tolerate it anymore, and let out a furious shout. Enough! He slammed his cup, pointing at Grace and cursing. You disgraceful thing! Look at the stupid things you've done. I don't even have the face to cover up for you. Grace's lips trembled, nothing left but sobbing and whimpering. Her mother immediately stepped forward to stop him, then embraced Grace, crying with her. She's still young and foolish. What's the point of scolding her now? Mr. Howard pointed at the two of them and cursed. This is all your fault for spoiling her. After all, we are the ones who wronged him. Mid-curse, Mr. Howard suddenly turned to me. Looking at my expression, he said, Ethan, our family was in the wrong first, but since things have come to this, what will it take for you to forgive Grace? I finally understood. In this situation, it was a good cop, bad cop routine. Grace's entire family was truly suited for acting. I remained indifferent. I already forgave her. Mrs. Howard's eyes lit up. Really? Ethan, I knew you were a good kid you. Before she could finish, I pulled out the divorce agreement again. I tapped a finger on it. As long as she signs it, we'll wipe the slate clean between us. Mr. and Mrs. Howard's faces were indescribably grim. A surge of satisfaction filled me. They used to look down on me, but now they were practically clinging to me. The company's current power and status were enough to secure the Howard family's livelihood for generations. How could the Howard family bear to lose me, their golden goose? Mr. Howard stared intently at the divorce agreement for a long time. Suddenly, he grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it against his own head. Ethan, let me, her father, suffer for my daughter's mistakes. I'll give you my life. I only hope that from now on, you and Grace can get along well. He smashed bottle after bottle, and wine and blood streamed down his cheeks. Grace cried and rushed to him. Dad, don't be foolish. She turned to me and said, Ethan, whatever you want, take it out on me. My dad isn't well, he can't handle this kind of torment. The smile on my face instantly vanished. What a perfect example of guilt tripping. They were the ones self-harming, and they were the ones who made the mistakes, yet with a few words, it all became my fault. After smashing the bottles, Mr. Howard stumbled and collapsed. Fragments littered the floor, and Grace and her mother's screams rang out incessantly, making the scene chaotic. Hotel staff immediately called for an ambulance. 10 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Mr. Howard was carried onto a stretcher. As he passed me, he tugged at my sleeve, refusing to let go. A stubborn gaze peered through the blurry blood. Ethan, this apology of mine, do you accept it? I knew that even if I didn't accept it this time, they would find ways to continue bothering me like this later. Even if I consistently refused, they could use their injuries to accuse me and ruin my reputation. I brainstormed for a moment, finally gritting my teeth and swallowing my pride today. I picked up the divorce agreement from the table and tore it in half in front of Mr. Howard. With a cold expression, I asked, Now, are you satisfied? With my goal achieved, the weight on my mind finally lifted. Mr. Howard's hand then released my sleeve, and he fainted. Watching the three of them leave, a plan began to form in my mind. Forcibly shaking them off me wouldn't work. So, I'd take a softer approach, making them willingly leave on their own. Chapter 7. After the farce, Grace smoothly moved back into the house. Although I felt disgusted inside, on the surface, I had to pretend to be calm and live under the same roof with her. Unlike before, Grace and I slept in separate rooms. But every night, she would quietly slip into my bed wearing a slinky nightgown. After I shook her off 2 or 3 times, Grace completely broke down. Her eyes reddened, making her appear exceptionally pitiful. Ethan, haven't you already forgiven me? Why do you still refuse to touch me? Because you are dirty, of course. I watched her posturing provocatively on the bed with cold eyes, frowning as I said, I've been too busy with work lately. I'm tired. Let's talk about it later. Before she could continue to pester me, my phone suddenly rang. I glanced down, it was Leo, my assistant. I left Grace and walked into the home office, locking the door. Leo's voice, neither too loud nor too soft, echoed throughout the home office. Mr. Vance, this is bad. The project our company has been competing for was snatched by a rival. Our stock has collapsed, and the shareholders have suddenly called an urgent meeting. You need to rush back to the company. Hanging up the phone, I immediately grabbed my jacket from the sofa and headed out. As I opened the home office door, I saw a shadow flicker in the living room. Grace must have heard, right? She better have heard. Just as I was about to leave, Grace pretended to just be coming out of the bedroom. She asked, Where are you going so late? Did something happen? Something came up with the company. I need to go handle it. Under's gaze, I went downstairs and drove off. 2 kilometers outside the residential complex, I pulled the car over. Then I opened the tablet to check the surveillance footage. Sure enough, Grace had secretly entered my home office. I watched with interest as she opened my computer. She saw the files I had meticulously prepared for her. The data in the files showed the financial crisis, the company had been facing for the past few months, combined with the conversation she had just overheard between Leo and me about the only project that could save the company being stolen. The company's situation was now precarious. Grace frowned as she looked at the data, instinctively taking 2 steps back. Her trembling voice came through the monitor. How could this happen? Grace was materialistic. She thought she could enjoy a life of luxury and wealth by being with me. So, I decided to pretend to be on the verge of bankruptcy and deep in debt. Then, she would naturally initiate a divorce with me and stop bothering me. Late that night, I timed my return home. Grace was still awake. She poured me a glass of hot water and asked indirectly, "Ethan, have you dealt with the company matters?" I shook my head, deliberately putting on a pained expression, and smoked cigarette after cigarette in the living room. I suddenly looked at Grace, my deep eyes holding a scrutinizing gaze. "Grace, if one day I lose all my money, would you still be willing to stay with me?" The air was thick with tension. Grace froze for a few seconds. She forced a strained smile. She leaned on my shoulder and comforted me. "What nonsense are you talking about? Ethan, I was immature before, but now we can finally live a good life. Even if you have no money, I'll still stay by your side." Grace sweet-talked me. But the very next day, she went to a law firm to inquire about marital assets. She also printed out several copies of property liquidation and asset transfer agreements. No matter how Grace calculated, she would never have guessed that everyone in that law firm was my connection. "Mr. Vance, your wife came to the law firm today specifically to inquire about assets. I've hinted to her as you instructed." "Good, thank you for your hard work." It's good that she believed it. As long as she believed it, my plan was one step closer to its goal. I had the lawyer tell Grace that as long as she legally transferred the assets before my company went bankrupt and then divorced, she could not only retain the assets under her name, but also remain unentangled and unaffected. These past few days, to make Grace even more certain that I was truly on the verge of bankruptcy, I pretended to be frazzled and stayed at the company constantly. And I occasionally arranged for people to act as debt collectors, showing up to issue warnings. Grace finally couldn't sit still anymore. That day, when I returned home, Grace handed me a glass of hot water. "Ethan, have some water. Your voice is hoarse. Don't overwork yourself." I smiled at her, showing a hint of gratitude. "Grace, even if I lose everything, at least I still have you." Under her hopeful gaze, I drank all the water laced with sleeping pills. What she didn't know was that this house was already filled with hidden cameras. Grace's every move was within my surveillance. What she also didn't know was that a small amount of sleeping pills was ineffective on me, because from the moment I found out she cheated on me with Marcus, I couldn't sleep a single night, relying on sleeping pills to get by. Over time, the effect of the sleeping pills on me had also significantly diminished. Once I fell into a deep sleep, Grace finally took out the asset transfer agreement she had prepared from the drawer. Suddenly, through a small crack in my eyes, I saw a familiar figure. It was Marcus. He walked out from another room. He stood at the doorway and urged, "Are you ready? Hurry up, before he wakes up." Grace's excited voice rang out. "Don't worry. I put in a full 6 sleeping pills. Even if he wakes up, you can just hold him down. What's there to be afraid of?" She laughed triumphantly. "Once I get the assets, I'll divorce him immediately. That way, even if he realizes what happened later, it will be too late." It seemed they had prepared everything long ago. If I hadn't drunk the sleeping pills, I probably would have been forcibly knocked out. I allowed Grace to guide my hand to sign my name and press my handprint. Every step she and Marcus took was being recorded by me. These recordings would later be their incriminating evidence. Finally, they got my signature and handprint with satisfaction. To celebrate, Marcus mockingly put his arm around Grace's waist and kissed her passionately in front of me. After a long time, the deceitful couple finally left with the money. After the sounds in the living room ceased, I slowly walked out. The house was a mess. All valuable items had been cleaned out. Only a divorce agreement was left on the table. I lowered my gaze to see Grace's scribbled signature on it, and my smile deepened. Finally, I had shaken Grace. That leech off me. I looked up, and the camera in the corner was blinking. Now that I had the divorce agreement, it was time to reclaim what was mine. Chapter 8. Within half a day, I heard from the law firm. Grace had already processed the asset transfer there. Except for the company, which they considered debt-ridden, and didn't want, all the houses, cars, and liquid assets under my name had fallen into their pockets. Signatures and seals, swift and decisive. That night, Marcus broke into my house with a group of people. A dense crowd of people, like thugs. Marcus stood at the front, mockingly provoking me. "Ethan, pack your things and get lost. From today on, this is my house." I sat on the sofa, barely reacting, but my gaze expressed a hint of disdain. I praised him as if in admiration. "Marcus, you are amazing. You are practically my human garbage disposal." Marcus didn't react for a moment. "What did you say?" "Grace, that trash, you took her off my hands. And this house, because of her, I don't want it anymore, and you eagerly came to pick up my leftovers." I smiled faintly. "Aren't you just a literal garbage can?" Marcus finally realized, his face twisted with indignation. His eyes glaring fiercely, he gritted his teeth and said, "Ethan, your company is on the brink of ruin, you are on your deathbed, and you are still pretending. Times have changed. From now on, I'll stomp you into the ground, step by step. You all. Smash all his things." He waved his hand, and dozens of young men he had brought with him immediately rushed forward, brandishing baseball bats. Marcus didn't dare to touch me, so he could only vent his frustration on my belongings. They smashed everything in the house to smithereens, leaving fragments all over the floor, a complete mess. After had his fill of showing off, he leaned in and stared intently into my eyes, trying to find a hint of fear to satisfy his competitive urge. But I didn't, which only enraged him further. Suddenly, Marcus noticed the divorce agreement tightly clutched in my hand. He laughed, the curve of his lips contemptuous. "Still pretending, Ethan. What's that in your hand?" "The divorce agreement, right? On the surface, you pretend not to care, but deep down, you are probably spitting blood with jealousy, right?" The truth was the opposite. I was actually afraid he would tear up the agreement, which would make all my efforts in vain. I shrugged indifferently and turned to leave. Seeing me stay silent, Marcus grew smug. Just as I was about to step out, he called out to me, "Ethan, how about I tell you another secret? You don't know this yet, but Grace is pregnant again. Sorry, but this child is still mine. Sucker. Thanks for your assets. We'll definitely live a good life with your blessings." I paused for a moment. When I turned around, Marcus tilted his head slightly, smiling in a lewd and triumphant way. His buddies behind him also cheered, shouting, "Bro is awesome." "What a bunch of fools," I smiled calmly. "Marcus, I lines remember today, you just wait. The best way to get revenge on someone is to set them up for a fall." Marcus was on top of the world right now. Letting him enjoy it for 2 or 3 days before sending him plummeting to rock bottom would be the best revenge. I constantly monitored Marcus and Grace's activities over the past few weeks. Ever since becoming rich overnight, Marcus had been heavily promoting his trust fund baby persona online. He frequented high-end establishments, spending money recklessly. Of course, it was all my money he was spending. Before, he was a trust fund baby because of Grace. Now, he was one because of me. I couldn't help but comment under Marcus' posts, feeling amused. "Trust fund baby. Then you should call me daddy." 2 minutes after I posted it, Marcus furiously blocked me. I had my company's operations team do some light manipulation, pushing and promoting Marcus behind the scenes. Soon, Marcus' followers reached 8 million, making him one of the top influencers on the rising star charts. Falling from such a height would definitely hurt. When my secretary came in, I was watching Marcus' live stream. These days, he had subtly hinted on his live stream that he was going to propose to his girlfriend. His trust fund baby persona combined with a devoted and loyal label instantly captivated millions of netizens. Digital gifts in the live stream never stopped pouring in. He truly understood how to play the internet game. The reservations for the proposal even reached 5 million, and netizens commented excitedly below. This influencer is rich, good-looking, and devoted. Which woman is so lucky? Waiting, waiting, waiting. I definitely want to see what a grand proposal from a rich family looks like. I clicked in, only to find that the live stream for the proposal that day was even pay-per-view. How pathetic. My secretary handed me a report. Mr. Vance, these are Marcus' recent collaborators. I glanced at it. Marcus was currently a hot influencer, and many collaborators were scrambling to work with him. As long as Marcus integrated their advertisements into his proposal event that day, he would rake in a fortune. I calculated that a single live stream could easily bring in several million. That wouldn't do. I absolutely wouldn't allow that to happen. I tapped on the table and asked, "Has the news been released?" Yes, it has. We announced that the company's assets are currently tied up, and Mr. Vance, you personally need to go abroad to negotiate projects. Marcus would definitely be on guard against me interfering, so he would only choose to propose when I was on a business trip. That way, even if I came back to cause trouble or expose their relationship, the collaborator's money would already be in his pocket. The day of Marcus' proposal arrived quickly, the location set at the waterfront venue. An hour before the event was scheduled to begin, I sent Grace a video. It was the video of her and Marcus guiding my hand to sign the documents in the bedroom after they drugged me. As expected, Grace called me back almost immediately. I chuckled. "Are you satisfied with the video, Grace?" The background noise on her end was loud. I could vaguely hear mentions of makeup, so she was probably backstage preparing. Grace was silent for a long time, her voice trembling, when she finally spoke. "Ethan. It's me, Grace. It seems you are quite desperate. We just got divorced, and you are already so eager to marry Marcus. That video is my engagement gift to you two. Do you like it?" She sounded panicked. "How do you have this?" Chapter 9. No, Ethan, this is all just for the live stream. Then was it also for the live stream that you quietly ran off with the assets under my name, and then blocked me? I slowly said, "Guess how many years you'll be locked up for those tens of millions in assets." Grace's end of the line went silent with a clang, clearly terrified. She gasped, frantically explaining, "Ethan, no, it's not like that. I just thought." I cut her off. "You thought I was about to go bankrupt, right? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the company is doing very well, even better than before. Guess what my chances are of successfully crushing you two now?" Grace's sobbing came from the other end. Her voice hoarse, she said, "Ethan, I was wrong, I really was. Please give me another chance. Just don't call the police, and from now on, I'll do whatever you say." I was silent for a long time, then sighed. After gathering my emotions, I slowly said, "Then come back to me." Grace's sobbing stopped abruptly. She tentatively asked, "Ethan, do you mean you've forgiven me?" I paused for a moment, then slowly uttered, "Grace, I regret it. It seems I can't live without you. Come back to me, and let's pretend nothing happened. I can't stand seeing you with Marcus, waiting for a proposal, even if it's fake." Grace's heart pounded like a drum, and she agreed without hesitation. Adapting to circumstances had always been Grace's forte. Yielding to me now was entirely to her benefit. Hanging up the phone, I let out a long breath. Saying those words felt pretty disgusting. As night fell, and with 5 minutes before the event began, I quietly made my way to the backstage area. Marcus' live stream had already reached 1 million viewers, and countless camera flashes gathered at the entrance. The moment Grace made her appearance, flashes erupted. Marcus knelt on one knee before her. "Grace, will you marry me?" The influencers at the banquet, holding their wine glasses, echoed, "Marry him, marry him." The live stream was flooded with well wishes, and digital gifts from netizens covered the entire screen. Wealth and power intertwined that night, and Marcus' glory reached its peak. I took a sip of red wine. Since he had reached the peak, it was time for him to fall. Grace stood there, blushing, too guilty to answer for a long time. That call had shattered all her illusions. I had told her I would come pick her up before hanging up. She didn't dare not to wait for me. Marcus awkwardly looked around, then lowered his voice and urged, "Grace, what's wrong? Hurry and say yes, everyone's watching. Don't be nervous. Didn't we rehearse this? Just like last time." Grace's eyes darted towards the entrance occasionally, and she weakly pushed Marcus' hand away. "Marcus, Grace wavered, and the crowd began to murmur. "What's going on? Why isn't she taking the ring? Hundreds of thousands of netizens are watching. If there's a sudden change, wouldn't Marcus lose face big time? Keep it down, we don't want the media to catch this." Marcus grew anxious. He used his body to block the cameras, trying to force the diamond ring onto Grace's finger. Suddenly, I smashed my wine glass on the floor. With a smash, everyone's attention turned to me. Grace looked up, her piercing gaze cutting through the crowd and fixing on me. Grace was overjoyed. "Ethan, you really came." I stood there and beckoned. Grace publicly pushed Marcus away, picked up her skirt, and ran toward me. Gossip erupted from the crowd. "This is a wedding crash. First time seeing it in real life. So exciting. It's not certain if it's a wedding crash. Maybe that guy is just Grace's stalker." Exactly. Otherwise, who would turn down a trust fund baby like Marcus? Marcus, publicly rejected by Grace, slowly stood up, his face pale. When he saw me, his eyes filled with resentment and disbelief. He gritted his teeth. "Ethan, weren't you out of the country? Why are you so pesky as ever? Someone, get him out of here." Unfortunately, he could stop me, but he couldn't stop Grace. Grace ran to my side, panting, forced a smile, and firmly took my hand. She leaned against my shoulder, sounding aggrieved. "Ethan, you really came to pick me up. You don't know how long I waited for you." Marcus stood on the stage, watching us tugging at each other. He roared, "Grace, do you know what you are doing?" Watching's furious expression, I smiled calmly. "Marcus, don't be so anxious. I'm here to give a gift today." Reporters and media surrounded us, clearly waiting to witness the drama unfold. Grace, still leaning against me, suddenly looked up. She urged me, "Give what gift? Ethan, let's not bother with this and go home quickly." She was worried that if Marcus and I got into a conflict, I might, in a fit of emotion, reveal the criminal videos they had made. Right now, every action here was being recorded by the live stream. If this matter blew up, it would undoubtedly throw her into a world of trouble. I scoffed. "Grace, what makes you think I'd want dirty trash?" Her fingertips gripping my sleeve turned white, and she looked utterly shocked. "What did you say?" Chapter 10. Before she could react, I forcefully pushed her away, and she fell to the ground. Grace winced in pain, covering her bleeding arm, and demanded, "Ethan, what do you mean by this?" I didn't even give her a glance. Instead, I took out a tissue and, as if disgusted, wiped the hand that had just touched her, right in front of the camera. Then, under the glare of the flashlights, I presented the video to the public. I smiled faintly. "Excuse me, everyone. Just to clarify, Grace used to be my wife, but then she cheated on me with Marcus. A scumbag and a manipulative woman, so I didn't really have an opinion. But when you drugged me and forged my signature to transfer assets, that's something I cannot tolerate." The crowd erupted in an uproar. What? Grace was already married. I thought Marcus was a trust fund baby, but he's just a kept man. I never would have guessed. Oh, the internet is full of lies and truths. Just watch the drama unfold. These deceitful couple did something like this and still dared to post it online to deceive people. Refund. Grace lay on the ground, seemingly finally realizing what was happening. After a long moment, she forced a half smile. "Ethan, didn't you promise me you wouldn't release it?" My lips curled in contempt. "Didn't you also say you'd never leave me?" "And what happened then?" "Grace, I just wanted to see how far you'd go acting like a dog. You came when called and left when dismissed. I'm very satisfied." She growled, So you used me. Ethan, how heartless you are. We were married for 3 years. Do you want me dead before you'll forgive me? I ignored the hatred in her eyes, raising a hand to beckon to my side. 4 or 5 lawyers behind me walked up to Grace. They presented the compensation contract. Ms. Howard, if you don't sign, this live stream today will be irrefutable proof of your marital infidelity. And based on the video Mr. Vance has, we can absolutely sue you and use all the assets under your name to compensate Mr. Vance for his losses. It's a good deal to avoid jail time, wouldn't you say? I stood beside them, kicking the pen on the floor closer to Grace. Looking down at her, I said, Grace, either sign, or go to jail. What's there to think about? You should have thought about this outcome when you cheated. Finally, Grace slumped powerlessly to the ground and, under the intimidation and persuasion of the 4 or 5 lawyers, signed her name. After getting the contract, I felt satisfied and was about to leave. It was then that Grace's parents rushed over. Her mother got out of the car, and immediately lunged to her side, protecting her. She cried and wailed, My daughter, why are you so ill-fated? You married a heartless bastard. It was clearly him. He was the one who cheated with someone from his company first. What you did was merely justified retaliation. The mother and daughter shed copious tears, intending to once again use public opinion to smear my name. End. Howard glared at me with hatred, and in his confusion, grabbed a kitchen knife from a banquet table. He pointed it at me. Ethan, don't push us too far. Are you trying to ruin my family? I sneered. Trying that trick again. I gave a signal, and suddenly, 2 or 3 men, while Mr. Howard wasn't paying attention, swiftly approached him from behind and grabbed him by the throat. They then knocked the knife out of his hand and threw him to the ground. He struggled violently, gnashing his teeth and yelling, Let me go, let me go. You are assaulting someone in public, is there no law? Ethan, you beast, you failed my daughter, may you die a terrible death. I'm calling the police. A man over 6 feet tall, now sprawling on the ground, throwing a tantrum, made me just want to laugh. I deliberately raised my voice. Mr. Spencer, if someone consistently tries to frame others through self-harm, does that constitute a crime? Mr. Spencer pushed up his glasses. That depends on the person. Mentally ill individuals don't need to be punished, but for ordinary people, a few more attempts and their lines be institutionalized. Mr. Howard paused for 2 seconds. Upon hearing this, he glared at me furiously. Do you think I was raised to be easily intimidated? Don't try to threaten me. I bent down and leaned closer to him, threatening, Mr. Howard, how about I send you to a psychiatric hospital? That way, you can self-harm as many times as you want, and it won't matter. Do you think I can do it? I smiled, both eerie and serious, and Mr. Howard's face instantly turned pale, his shoulders slumped, and he no longer dared to yell. Having seen enough of the spectacle, I subtly signaled my assistant. He immediately led the group of people and grandly escorted me back. It was Marcus' event, and I stole the spotlight. It felt pretty good. Just then, Marcus rushed out. Ethan, you cursed bastard, don't think you can leave. You ruined my live stream, I won't let you get away with this. He plowed through the crowd, charging straight at me. Unfortunately, after only 2 steps, he was blocked by dozens of brand representatives. Seducing a married man and then using a proposal to profit illicitly was tantamount to tarnishing the reputations of their collaborating brands. Naturally, the brands wouldn't let him off the hook, demanding contract terminations and compensation for breach of contract. I looked at my phone in the corner. 500,000 people were watching the drama unfold in the live stream. I curled my lips into a smile for the camera. Does everyone want more drama? Remember that luxury penthouse Marcus often live streamed from downtown. That's also an asset under my name. Tune into my live stream at 8 p.m. tonight. I line smash the house and give away benefits to everyone. Chapter 11. At 8 p.m. that night, I arrived at Marcus' house on time. The house was packed with luxury goods, leaving the viewers in the live stream dumbfounded. Marcus used to flaunt these luxury goods online. I used to be so envious back then, but it turns out he's just a kept man. This is so shameless. Seducing someone's wife and then using their money. If you ask me, neither of them is any good. And they just got away with it. The influencer is too lenient. Didn't you see the news? I heard that shortly after Ethan left, Marcus was taken away by the police for stealing tens of millions in assets. Don't worry, he'll face legal charges sooner or later. Of course, I wouldn't just let that deceitful couple off the hook. In short, every single one of them had to go to jail. Holding a baseball bat, I smashed everything inside the house to smithereens. Ever since I learned about Grace's affair, my heart had felt squeezed by a massive force. It was only at this moment that I finally vented completely. After smashing the house, I had my assistant distribute the luxury goods as benefits to the viewers in the live stream. In just one night, public opinion regarding Marcus and me drastically reversed. The company's stock also rose to a new level overnight. 2 days later, my assistant handed me another document. Mr. Vance, this is a compilation of the collaborators Marcus needs to terminate contracts with. I flipped through it. The breach of contract fees amounted to millions, and a thrill of satisfaction surged within me. He was already deep in debt before even starting his career. How would he live his life now? I heard that after the day of the proposal, Grace, shamelessly leveraging the child, continued to cling to Marcus. I was somewhat surprised. Grace truly was flexible and adaptable. Whatever. A scumbag and a manipulative woman, it's best they are locked together so they don't harm others. Mr. Spencer told me that he had already filed lawsuits against both of them as I requested. It would just take some time for the court's judgment. Since the outcome was already determined, in the days that followed, I no longer focused on that deceitful couple, and began to devote myself entirely to work. But one day, Grace suddenly came to find me. She blocked me at the residential complex entrance. She wore a mask, and beneath her disheveled hair, if you looked closely, her eyes were bruised and dark. Grace knelt directly in front of me. She pleaded bitterly, "Ethan, please, let me come back to you. I was wrong, I truly know I was wrong. Marcus is a bastard. He's always drinking, or beating me. My 8-month-old child, was personally beaten to death by that beast, Ethan. I really can't go on living." I let her tug at me, countless words caught in my throat. Grace's beauty and arrogance were completely gone at that moment. But wasn't this the path she chose? What right did she have to regret it? I took a step back. Grace, this is the path you chose. It has nothing to do with me. The trial is in a few days. Then, you and Marcus can spend your honeymoon in prison. Grace's shoulders trembled non-stop, emitting soft sobs. Her eyes reddened, shining brightly. "Ethan, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. You loved me so much before, how could you be so cruel?" Suddenly, a clear female voice rang out. "Ethan." Under's shocked gaze, Luna stepped out of the car and stood by my side. I turned and smiled, taking Luna's hand, meeting Grace's gaze. Every word I spoke pierced my heart. Luna and I are together. I have you to thank for bringing us together. Grace, I'll be moving from here soon, to a place you'll never find. Fend for yourself. Luna nestled by my side, smiling gracefully and poised. "Ms. Howard, you'd best recognize your place. Now, I am Ethan's wife." Grace's eyes were swollen from crying, and then she let out a long wail. "Ethan. No. This isn't possible. Don't lie to me. Ethan. Come back. Explain yourself." And so, amidst Grace's accusations and curses, we got into the car and drove off. That evening, Luna and I were having dinner at a restaurant. The TV in the restaurant was broadcasting the news. At 7 p.m. this evening, a fire broke out in a residential complex, resulting in minor burns to one man. Fire station investigations suggest the fire was deliberately set by the man's wife, Grace. She has now been handed over to the police for further trial. I looked up and inadvertently met Grace's gaze on the TV screen. She hadn't waited for the court's verdict, instead, she had accelerated her own demise in her own way. Her body was covered in scars, and tears streamed down her face. As the police led her away, she suddenly looked at the camera and offered a faint smile of relief. I still remembered, years ago on the day I married Grace, she had smiled just like that. But time had passed, and she still hadn't stood the test. Now, the bullet from years ago had finally found its mark, proving to be her own undoing. Chapter 12. Una followed my gaze and saw the news on the screen. She took my hand, a gesture of comfort. I withdrew my gaze and held her hand even tighter. I'm fine, just a little lost. Everything that happened is her own doing. From now on, we'll live our own lives. Una smiled. Good. We'll live a life that's just ours. After dinner, Una and I walked to the parking lot together. Suddenly, I remembered I'd left my wallet in the restaurant. I told Una to get in the car and wait for me. But I'd barely taken 2 steps when a car suddenly sped out from a corner. Its headlights were blinding, and it was racing toward me at high speed. I instinctively squinted and ran to the side. The car couldn't turn in time and crashed straight into my vehicle. My eyes widened, and only then did I see that Marcus was in the car. I yelled, "Una, get down." But it was too late. I watched helplessly as my car was crumpled from the impact. I couldn't see Una in the car, and panic seized me. In an instant, Marcus' car burst into flames, and smoke billowed throughout the parking lot. Dozens of security guards rushed down to put out the fire. Although he was being held back by them, his arms twisted behind him, a deranged smile was plastered across his face. He yelled, "Ethan, I'm going to kill you. Did you collude with that manipulative woman, Grace, to set me on fire? This time you got lucky. I'm telling you, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. I'll make sure you and that manipulative woman, Grace, go down together. I have nothing left. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" I wanted to tear Marcus to pieces right then and there, but saving Una was the priority. I worked with the security personnel to move Marcus' car aside. Then I found Grace in the back seat of the car. Una, how are you?" Blood seeped from her forehead, but her breathing was steady. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, she wasn't in the passenger seat. At that moment, ambulances and police also arrived at the scene. I watched as the paramedics carefully moved Una onto a stretcher. "Don't worry, sir. For now, it's just minor superficial injuries. We still need to go to the hospital for a full examination to see if there's any internal damage." I nodded, flustered. "Thank you. I appreciate your hard work." As the police handcuffed Marcus, he was still screaming that he would kill me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I broke through the police line and knocked him down with a punch, leaving him with one last warning: "Marcus, if anything happens to Una, I'll make your life a living hell." I got into the ambulance with the doctor, leaving my assistant at the scene to keep an eye on Marcus' situation. After a long while, the doctor came out of the examination room. He said, "The examination is complete. Una has temporarily fallen into a coma due to the impact, and there are no internal injuries." However, my heart leaped into my throat. "However what? Doctor, is something wrong with her?" The doctor smiled. "It's not a problem. It's just that she's 1 month pregnant. Didn't you know? You should be extra careful when pregnant. Don't be so careless anymore." Una was pregnant. My emotions swung wildly, but deep down, I still had only one thought: as long as she was okay. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was my assistant calling. "Mr. Vance, Marcus has been taken away by the police. Since we are the victims, the police are asking for our demands." I thought for a moment and changed my mind about my previous decision. Find a reliable psychologist to perform a psychological evaluation on Marcus. If he's truly insane, tell the police to send him to a psychiatric hospital. Before, I only intended for him to go to prison and serve time. Now, I'll make sure he suffers a fate worse than death in the psychiatric hospital. Half a month later, Grace's verdict was announced. Due to theft, suspicion of money laundering, and malicious arson, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. As for Marcus, he was sent to the psychiatric hospital, just as I wished. That day, I even went to witness his splendor firsthand. He cried and screamed, "I'm not crazy. I'm not going, let me go. I'm not crazy." Every psychiatric patient says they're not crazy. In any case, Marcus would never be getting out again.